Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another Up Is Not Jump reaction, and oh god, I've been looking forward to this. This is, Fallout 4 is an absolute nightmare, this is why. Yeah, when it comes to Fallout 4, honestly, it's one of my favorites. I mean, because, like, the combat is much better than, you know, Fallout 3 and New Vegas. And also, I mean, I may not be that good at it, but I do like the building. That being said, I have a, man, actually thinking about it, how many hours do I have in Fallout 4? I don't actually know. 225 hours. Okay, there we go. I'm going to be completely honest here. I've never actually completed a Fallout game before. Like, I've never actually gotten to the end. Because it doesn't matter which one I play, whether it's 3, New Vegas, 4, I always run into the same pattern where I'll play, like absolutely nobody's business for a while. I'll get tired and burnt out. I'll put the game aside, won't touch it for like several months. Then when I come back, I've completely forgotten how, where I am, or even how to play. And after a little bit of fiddling in my old save, I decided, you know what, I'll just relearn the game, start from square zero all over again. Again, it's part of the reason why I'm playing Fallout London on my channel, is because I've always used my the Let's Plays on my channel as a way to ensure that I actually finish a game to completion. So, yeah, that's gonna be definitely really fun. But honestly, I mean, like, combat is really good. Obviously, you know, what people say about, you know, I've always thought of, you know, Fallout 4 was an RPG where they removed a lot of the RP section of it. Which, I mean, if you could add, like the role-playing and the decision-making stuff from, like, New Vegas and put it into Fallout 4, that would be just, you would have a perfect game there. Just perfect. Because, like, before, I don't think I've ever talked about it on the channel, but I've imagined a potential, like, Fallout Ronto or whatever that took place in Toronto. And I always imagined, like, there'd be, if you added, like, the way of, like, where you could, like, disguise yourself in other factions' clothings. And I was imagining how fun it would be to have, like, a storyline or something where you're, like, a triple agent, where your main thing is with a faction, and you pretend to be a double agent with the other faction before, while, like, feeding them false intel from your original faction. That would have been so fun. And, like, I imagined Ronto being, like, being controlled by, like, a pre-war politician who survived as a ghoul who was a member of, like, the resistance when, like, the US invaded Canada and stuff like that. Would have been so fun. Oh god, if I had the skills and ambition of the people who made Fallout London, that I would be right on there. So yeah, I mean, I love Fallout 4. I know it has a lot of problems with it, and I'm going to love seeing Up Is Not Jump poke and prod every flaw with this game to comedic effect. So yeah, we should probably get this thing started then. So yeah, of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And if you like this video or any other video that I make, I'd very much appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to my channel. Because, you know, I know how YouTube works. I know the vast majority of people who watch my stuff aren't actually subscribed. And I just passed 4,000 subscribers. And my big goal for this year is to hit 5,000 subscribers, hopefully. So, yeah, that's definitely going to be fun if that happens. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
It's been a long time. Let's see if it's still... Wait a second, this isn't how I remember Fallout 4. And what are those noises? Oh my god, what the...
Oh no!
Where the hell am I? Over 9 years after Fallout 4's release, it's still an absolute nightmare. The game starts up, we watch the most boring opening of all time.
Vault 111. Go away.
And within 10 minutes...
Honestly, again, what I said before about, you know, Fallout 4 removing a lot of the RP options, I love the I don't go for it a lot, but I love the option to just be completely sarcastic as an option. And also, just on the topic of the opening being boring, I mean, it does kind of make sense in the very beginning, because you are, like, pre-war at that point, and you're, admittedly, you're living in one of the nicer places in America that's not really experiencing all of the, you know, issues that pre-war America was suffering from. So, I mean, you can just have a bit of time living in, you know, pre-war suburbia, and then, you know, oh no, the bombs are coming, then everyone panics.
minutes of leaving your vault, you'll have your dog companion, a full suit of power armor, a minigun, have killed a deathclaw, and have a home base with a full set of workbenches to upgrade all of your equipment. It feels like this game has been hacked.
I have to use green blood now or it's against YouTube's terms of service.
Of course.
You find yourself
So that just means instead of murdering people, you murder aliens.
asking why you'd even bother playing the rest of the game. You have everything you need right here. Oh wait. You see, in Fallout 4, just after you start, the bombs begin to fall. So my husband grabs our baby like the responsible father he is, and we run to the vault. My baby! We are then cryogenically frozen for 200 years. After getting defrosted, we see our baby being stolen and our husband being murdered by a man named Kellogg. We leave our vault, and after some exploring in the wasteland, we learn that he was taken to the Institute, a technological paradise that focuses on manufacturing near-human-like robots called synths to do all of their tasks. About halfway through the game, we learn
Manufactured
where the
slavery.
Institute is and find that we can only get there via teleport.
But honestly, the Institute sections are so disappointing. I would say just don't even bother. In fact, in this whole review, we aren't even gonna go there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, God.
Hello, upisnotjump.
Marjorie,
Oh, God.
the mannequin I bought on eBay 10 years ago to act as a prop in my videos. You're a synth.
Yes, and after all the acts of violence against me,
Oh, those.
as my revenge, I've trapped you here to review Fallout 4.
Honestly, she looks more like a Borg than a synth.
Forever.
Fallout 4. Forever. No!
So Kellogg defrosts us,
Kellogg's defrosties, anyone?
and we leave the vault after him. And like I say, what follows here is Bethesda immediately killing all sense of long-term playability their game could ever have had. The Fallout games are supposed to be these long epics where you traverse the wasteland, constantly uncovering new skills and abilities. But the extent to which Fallout 4 so quickly and fundamentally screws the pooch on this is a little unbelievable. Giving you any of this stuff so early on is bad design, but let's talk about the main one, the one that had me coughing up precious screws.
The power armor, yeah.
The power armor is probably the best thing in this entire game. Hell, it might be the best thing Bethesda have ever done. Every aspect of its design, from its sound to its animations and the way it looks and feels to wear, is utterly perfect. It's so good, in fact, that simply trying to get hold of, run, and maintain a suit of it could have easily been the driving force of this entire game. It would have been great! Another issue with having this unstoppable armor so early on is with it, you are basically immune to all radiation damage in a game called Fallout. So now you can access and explore every single inch of the map at level 1, though I don't know why you'd want to. It does.
I mean, okay, yeah. Playing Fallout London, and yes, I know I'm talking about it a lot in here, but it's made me realize just how much I was using power armor as a crutch in Fallout 4. Like, currently in my Let's Play, I don't know how many times I've died in an encounter because I wasn't paying attention to how much health I had. Why? Because in Fallout 4, many times, I didn't have to. Though, I mean, granted, again, the whole thing of, finding the stuff to, actually maintain the power armor, that is kind of important. I know for a fact that it probably takes me a good 2 or 3 hours before I'm ready to commit to just wearing power armor nonstop, because my main thing that I'm always afraid of running out on are the fusion cores. And honestly, like, talking about crutch, I just realized, so half the reason was protection, the other half was just having more capability of carrying more stuff.
Need fusion cores to run, which could limit its usefulness, but look, here are the locations of all the fusion cores in this game, and you start the game here, so there are literally 7 in our immediate area.
Now, here was where I was going to do a Bo Burnham cover about how Bethesda try and cram everything into their games all of the time. But then I thought, I already did that for Fallout 3. But then I thought...
I love Bo Burnham, so...
See you a man be murdered, lose your son and find the door. Instant dog meat armor, death claw, haven't we seen this all before? Join a faction, learn survive or send a love letter to Piper. Then there's Pip-Boy, Fighter, Sniper, more companions, so survivor. More like, here's a moldy breakfast cereal, you should kill your son. Here's why my luck's always fuck you, here's how you can build a bomb. Which railroad member are you? Just follow the freedom trail. There's no nuance to the moral complexity of whether or not since are human beings, and that's the entire plot of this game, so it's actually a fail.
Oh, God.
Speaking of exploring the wasteland couldn't be more peaceful. Alright, never mind. Fortunately though, that's where today's sponsor comes in. Raycon Everyday Earbuds. And I'm using them for the rest of this journey. Raycon's everyday
a real
earbuds
noise
have active
cancellation.
Noise cancelling, so I can just tune into my favorite radio station everywhere I go without interruption. They've got a 32-hour battery life too, so I can wander the wasteland for hours without having to worry about recharging. But if I do somehow run out of power, a 10-minute charge in its case gives me 1.5 hours of battery life. They're also ergonomically designed so they always stay in my ears even if I'm running or jumping. Ow, my neck. They stayed in though. So if you want a pair and also want to support the channel, go to buyraycon.com/notjump to get 20% off the best-selling everyday earbuds. Brought to you by Raycon. Now let's get back to exploring the wasteland.
Exploration in this game is fundamentally ruined from the get-go because our character has absolutely no reasonable reason to do anything but follow the main story to find their poor baby that, by the way, looks so unrealistic I'm concerned that it too is somehow a synth that the Institute has snuck in.
Well, I mean, if you do follow that whole theory that the sole survivor is in fact a synth, that may in fact, be more likely than you think.
Ignoring that, the random questing in Fallout 3 was so good it literally held the entire game together. In Fallout 4 though, I explored all of these locations in my playthrough, and not a single one stands out to me as being better than quite average. But generally almost all of them elicited no emotion out of me whatsoever.
Nothing new there then.
For example, from the very start of the game, you can see the giant mass fusion building off in the center of the city. This signals to the player that this location is definitely worth visiting. But after fighting your way through the entire city, which I tell you now is just one giant Doom mod, complete with dodgy frame rate, you finally make it to the mass fusion building, ready for an intricate quest with characters, puzzles, and this building has 32 hostile enemies with no extra quest, context, or story. There is nothing here. And here is when I realized that this enormous 30-minute fight sequence is the reward for getting here.
Oh no.
You are being hysterical.
There are so many in this game where you are exploring and you find something that seems really interesting, but it goes absolutely nowhere. At one point, you find a location called Easy City Downs. As you approach, you hear over a tannoy that they are racing all different kinds of robots. Oh, this sounds so fun. I can't wait to get involved. Everyone here kills you. Another time, I found the Combat Zone, which is a close combat fighting arena where you can place bets on who you think will win, and everyone here kills you. And it goes on. Poseidon Energy, Quincy Ruins, Solgus Ironworks, Corvega Assembly Plant, Hubris Comics, Fort Hagen, the General Atomics Factory, Mass Fusion Building, Vault 75, Vault 95, this bridge, Dunwoods Borders, the USAF satellite location. There is, of course, one place that is built up perfectly, and that place is...
Glowing Sea. Okay. Well, sorry, I gotta pause here. But honestly, yeah, that is one of the those. And honestly, out of all of those, the two that honestly, like Easy City Downs and the Combat Zone were the worst offenders for me, because like you see these are places of business. Granted, I mean, they're being run by raiders, but they're active like areas of business that people are, making money on, they're betting, they're having fun. And yet, the second you show up, they'll drop what they're doing and just bum rush you, you kill them, and then there's nothing. I think I remember correctly, there was a bunch of like cut stuff that people found in the code for the Combat Zone. I think there's actually a mod that like re-enables it, so you actually get like, I don't know, the true Combat Zone experience. But I hate that, like, why did Bethesda feel the need to cut those places? Like, again, that goes back to the whole thing where Fallout 4 is a good game, but they removed so much of the RP from the RPG. Like, they removed so many ways that you can interact with the world besides just killing. I mean, like, they even partially added something like that in one of the DLCs where you have, like, the Raider, like, in Nuka World, they have all the Raider factions, and yet, unless you're going in specifically to, like, clear an area, they don't attack you. And then you can potentially, like, even side with them. Like, I mean, if you want to do that, I don't know why you'd want to, but still.
See, from the start of the game, as you explore, you can see a shimmering light somewhere off in the distance. Eventually you'll realize that this location is where the nuclear bomb landed at the start of the game. The intrigue to go there, immense.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna be completely honest, I never noticed that before. Maybe it's just because I generally don't travel at night, because I like being able to see where I'm going.
The excitement, palpable. And it only builds the more you play the game, as it keeps catching your eyes in the distance. Eventually we travel towards it, but as we approach, our radiation levels start to tick up, and the air slowly gets thicker as storms appear in the distance. The music and atmospheric sounds culminate in an intense crescendo as we realize we've finally reached a location that is truly interesting and dangerous to explore. We want to enter, but we'll need to hold back first. We need to plan, gather supplies and anti-radiation medicine. Oh wait, things that bother me never bother me. I feel happy and fun. The only difficult thing to survive while exploring this location is the crushing disappointment in my soul. Bethesda did it. It's all here. The concept, the build-up, the visuals, the atmosphere, the sound. This area should have been a real challenge for everyone to explore. Yet you can go there right after finishing the game's fucking tutorial. What's worse is you don't even need the power armor to explore this location. Look, I took all my clothes off, swallowed one rad X, which I had 28 by the time I got to this location, as they're about as rare as Skittles at a diabetic convention. No, stop, this makes no sense. And everything was...
As rare as Skittles at a diabetic convention. You know, I'm gonna try to unpack that one later, but not right now.
Fine! Every one of the bags you threw hit me in the head. And what's even worse is when you do explore it with your 20 Radaway, 76 Rad-X, and 7 suits of full power armor, there is nothing here. Remember that glowing location we spent this whole time thinking about? What could be there? What interesting characters? What exciting development is this thing, with no one inside with more dialogue than...
Atom has provided us with all that we need.
Disappointing. 1 out of 10. Retake the exam. Game. Remake the game. It just gets to the stage where you don't really want to explore anymore. You see a big looming building off in the distance and you are literally filled with dread.
The longer the note, the more dread.
Because you know all that's going to be there if you're lucky is a few computer logs, a magazine, and literally hordes of raiders with stockpiles of missile launchers, Fat Mans, flamers, miniguns, cannons, Gatling lasers, Gauss rifles, Tesla rifles, plasma rifle. I did find some X01 power armor though, which
Is kinda cool, I guess.
Yeah, that is one of those things. God, thinking about it. Granted, I mean, I have a lot of fun with like the legendary weapons in Fallout 4. Because like granted, I mean, like this is one of my very early playthroughs, but I found like a minigun with the explosive modifier on it, and my God, I was unstoppable with that thing. But I miss how impactful legendary weapons and armor felt in the previous game. But like, it really makes me wish that we could have like a hybrid of the two systems. Like, honestly, I like the sense of dread and like glee I see when I see a legendary enemy, knowing like, oh, I might get something good. It's almost like gambling or loot boxes almost. But like the lack of like named like impactful legendary weapons really does hurt the game, and I'd love if they did that where like, oh, you have like the normal randomized legendaries and you can get like the pre-designed super powerful legendaries, ones that had like major like gameplay shifts, like oh, this is a very powerful laser rifle that automatically shoots multiple beams without the need of a splitter that you could then add a splitter to get even more beams. But the thing is, it consumes 5 ammo per shot whenever you do it. So, oh, you get a lot of beams, but you go through the ammo you do have very quickly, or, you know, stuff like that. But you don't. And, oh, God, that would be fun. That would be really fun.
One of my favourite locations in Fallout 3 for various reasons was the Dunwich building. The main reason I liked it so much was because the sound design and slow pace created an immensely spooky atmosphere. There's actually a location in Fallout 4 which is a reference to this called the Dunwich Borers. And it's a great comparison to show how Fallout 4 ruins everything. You enter the Dunwich Borers and immediately you can see the problem, because this place is absolutely crammed with gunners all the way through. I just don't get it. How are you supposed to feel alone when there's enough people here to fill one giant dog meat? Not to mention there are dozens of ghouls, spotlights, turrets. Turrets in a horror location? Are you mental? Wow, look how atmospheric this is. Could you imagine if the Dunwich building was filled with turrets? Oh, this is really scary. I wonder what's round the next corner. Oh, goody. Sure, it doesn't seem so bad, but every time I start to feel slightly immersed, a new fight inevitably starts up. Drums from a fucking Michael Bay epic roar up. Michael. And I'm flanked on all sides by gunners, machine guns, and turrets. And after every single fight, the drums end in one giant massive crescendo to signal it's over.
Before it inevitably begins when you enter the next room. Yeah.
Oh, it's finally over. Wait, are those more turrets? Constantly throughout this game, you have to wage hundreds of wars bigger than the Battle of Hoover Dam just to find out if any single character worth meeting is in any single location, and it's so exhausting.
We're actually thinking about it. Actually, yeah, that is kind of the deal. I mean, granted, you know, more powerful technology allows for more NPCs and stuff like that. Can you imagine how many NPCs there would have been at the Battle of Hoover Dam if, you know, if they remade Fallout New Vegas completely and with, like, the Fallout 4 engine?
This, of course, is largely because of
combat, yeah.
I've mentioned before that in the previous games, the combat was pretty clunky. Not only did this give the games their unique feel, it meant you could never really be presented with that many enemies at once. The joy of this was that you usually had to strategize using mines and other makeshift weapons to get through the janky fights. It also meant that you had to rely on VATS, because aiming without it was as natural as Fallout 4's facial animations.
Good.
I find that I don't really ever use VATS or explosives in Fallout 4 because the easiest solution to all my problems is, well, what you can see on screen. Can you feel how bored I am? So to compensate for how easy and simplistic the combat is now, Bethesda has at least tripled the amount of enemies to make the game more difficult. The problem is every weapon and combat effect in this game creates so much impact and movement on screen, it makes me feel genuinely sick. When you fight sentry bots, for example, which are scattered throughout the wasteland like minstrels at a diabetic festival. Shut up! It's honestly like the world is coming to an end again. How am I supposed to fight back against this? And
honestly, though, I mean, granted, I mean, that does seem somewhat thematic, because, again, those, like, until, like, late game, like, sentry bots, death claws, assaultrons to a certain extent, like, even now, like, I still get terrified playing again, when I have to fight them, especially if they sneak up on me somehow, just because of, like, well, I mean, granted, I use VATS more often because I'm not a very good shot. Like, and when it comes to these games, I'm very much oh, hey, there's a person, I'm either going to spray and pray and hopefully hit them, or I'm going to sit down, or I'm going to kneel down, aim, and then try to fire and get them with as few shots as possible, because the gun I'm using has very little ammo.
In melee combat, the screen is oscillating so wildly, I'm worried the Smiths are gonna file a lawsuit. And it's exactly the same problem with all of the Assaultrons. Wait a second, what's this doing? Oh my god! Also, whoever's idea it was to have the critical meter be a bar deserves to have a portal to hell open so that hungry maggots can feast on deserves a swift spank on the bottom. Let me tell you a little something about video games. They're supposed to be fun. No, with the critical meter being a meter that you slowly build up, all you need to do is fight until you have a critical hit stored, then save it for whenever you need it to win a fight. It completely removes all aspect of surprise from the proceedings. Remember when you had 10 luck in Fallout New Vegas and Doc Mitchell says,
"With luck like yours, I'm surprised them bullets didn't just turn right around and climb back into the gun."
Well, if that game was like Fallout 4, he would instead have to say, "Luck 10, eh? Remember to press X to perform a critical hit." Combat in the previous games was just a means to an end. It was something to occupy your hands while you met new characters and completed side quests. In Fallout 4, though, finding people to shoot is the main reason you explore. You can, of course, also find magazines which increase your combat skills, but most of the ones I found just increase the amount of damage I did on a critical hit, like finding a magazine that increases your chance of getting punched in the testicles. And no locations more sum up how Fallout 4 is only about combat the vaults. As we all know, in Fallout 4 and New Vegas, exploring the vaults is the very best part of the games. Bethesda and Obsidian bottled absolute magic with these sections. The slow pace and the soundtrack that is just a broken mess of whispers and jagged radio signals created an amazing tone.
So with all this under their belt, Bethesda were definitely able to recreate the same atmosphere in the vaults in Fallout 4. Oh no!
Vault 114 is filled with triggermen, Vault 75 is filled with gunners, and Vault 95 is filled with a crushing sense of disappointment that we waited 7 years for this game to come out. I mean, even more gunners. These vaults are just like everywhere else, with absolutely no atmosphere or pacing. Vault 81 is of course pretty good, though half of the residents are somehow the most hideous characters I've ever seen. I'm certain a lot of this game doesn't work, not because Bethesda are monsters like we've always assumed. There's a lot of really impressive stuff in this game. I think they've just spread themselves too thin, like Marmite on toast, but most of it got on the floor.
God, yeah. Well, I mean, granted, I mean, like, thinking about it, I mean, they were bought by a Microsoft, which, I mean, that's frightening. With how Microsoft's been acting recently, that's frightening. But also, like, they said they weren't going to be releasing another Fallout until the next Elder Scrolls gets released. And, oh god, when did they say that that's going to be released? I can't remember. Or here, 2026 or later. So yeah, they're not going to start working on the next Fallout until that one comes out. So I mean, hopefully they've you know, learned from their mistakes with Starfield. Hopefully.
Bethesda worked so hard on this game, and the sheer number of things they pulled off here is mental.
But Bethesda was so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think whether or not they should.
Here's all the completely new stuff I wrote down that this game tries to do. Pause it if you like. Any sane person would...
Wait, okay, so wait, what did that say? So, entirely new perk and leveling system, yeah. Which arguably... Granted, I mean, like, I miss, you know, the actual, like, skill checks, like speaking, bartering, stuff like that. But I love how the perks are laid out. For that, I find it so much easier to read and look at than, you know, the more traditional one, when you're having to, like, scroll through a little list that's only this long. For factions with branching story options, yeah. I mean, some of those, you know, not really branching, but, you know. 13 companions with near limitless dialogue. Yeah. All enemies and weapons fully redesigned, definitely, yeah. A full city with hundreds of buildings, yeah, definitely. Which you can just walk straight into, like there's no load barriers or anything. Like in New Vegas or in 3, where you'd have to go through like different things to go to downtown or stuff like that. 2 fully voiced main characters, yeah, definitely. Though, I mean, that one, that did take away some of, again, the role-playing capabilities of it. Base building and sim-based management, that, again, I like the base building. I just wish that for the times that, when I wasn't feeling it, like, there was just some way I could just automatically put the bases on, like, just have them build themselves and stuff like that. Like, oh, you're now the manager here. Do your best, you know, that sort of deal. Combat system completely redesigned. Again, like the combat. If I remember correctly, I think it was actually designed by like the guys who were working on the Doom remake. If I remember correctly. Limitless weapon and armor modding. Very good. Though with that one, with that one, I was almost thinking that, like, I wish there was a way that you can make like armor sets and like have them bundled together, because the one thing I always hated was the fact like, oh, I have this armor, but now I've picked up a few other pieces that are very similar. So okay, so like which version of these near identical pieces was one I was wearing before, and like stuff like that, so I could like pre-bundle them all together where I just put on and then I automatically have like the one that I put together. Full underwater exploration, yeah. Cities, marshes, seas, mountains, yeah, again, all very good stuff. Just evidently not enough people to do it.
New stuff I wrote down that this game tries to do. Pause it if you like. Any sane person would take one look at this list and profess that doing all of this properly would be
in one game.
And that's the problem. Clearly no one is reining Todd Howard back. He's like James Cameron when he made Avatar.
You know, he could just blow his whole budget and film wherever he wanted. Where the hell am I now?
Let's start with the real biggie. Oh yes, let's discuss
the dialogue system, yeah.
In the late 80s, when LucasArts held the crown for the best video game writers, they realized that if all possible options for the things you could say during each round of dialogue were there as a list, it was not only a great opportunity to show off all the amazing writing they could come up with, but they could also use the other options to expose to the player extra fun information about our characters and the game world. They took this idea so seriously, in fact, they got Orson Scott Card, the writer of Ender's Game, Ender's Shadow, Ender's End, and his magnum opus End, to write the sword fighting dialogue in The Secret of Monkey Island 1. This way it was so engaging that you could happily sit and read it over and over before making your choices. This is good design. In Fallout 4, all of the options of what you can say in dialogue have been simplified to mostly single one-word answers. All of this history is disregarded. It's such bad design, in fact, that I'm surprised the people who put this in were capable of making the rest of the game function at all.
I mean, granted, thinking back, I think there was specifically like ProZD. I remember he actually did a skit specifically talking about that, how like you have like, and then like you have the option, and then like what you have absolutely no control over what the character actually says after the option.
Why?
Hello, fucker.
I'm gonna kill your whole family for fun.
What?
Well, you know, I mean, it is sort of okay. I mean, it's alright, I guess. At the start, it isn't so bad. Your dialogue options are all reasonably well thought out, and you can just about assume what you're going to say. But by the time you get to Good Neighbor, the writers had completely given up, and everything just becomes yes, no, maybe, and... What, did they forget to write one in here? What it means is you almost always have absolutely no idea what your character is actually going to say in this series known for its thought-provoking dialogue.
I hope the next time we meet, it will be under happiness.
There's a moment, for example, where we are chatting with our friendly synth friend, Nick Valentine, who will come up more later. And after he mentions that he is a synth, I decide to simply ask curiously, oh, so you're one of them? And this leads to...
Don't lie to me, Nick. You're one of them. They made you.
Whoa, Nate. Cool it with the anti-synth remarks. See, this is why I like Nora better.
This may seem like a small example, but it happens constantly throughout the entire game. And implementing this system took time. Think about it, the dialogue is already written. Just display it at the bottom like any game has ever done ever. But no, a load of poor developers had to go through every bit of player dialogue in the entire game, of which there are over 13,000 lines, I may add, and summarize every single line into a few meaningless words that somehow make sense in context. And to what end? Making the game substantially worse? It isn't just that evil. This new system,
I mean, there is a specific reason why there was a mod specifically to fix that.
Totally ruins any potential dialogue puzzles the game could have had. For example, in probably the best questline in the game, you can choose to become the Silver Shroud and travel around fighting crime. If you dress as the Shroud while you do this, you also get the option to talk like the Shroud in conversations, and it's quite fun.
Your crimes have gone unpunished for too long.
This questline ends with you fighting off against a big crime boss, and one of the ways to beat him is to talk like the Shroud over and over until he gets scared. But rather than us having to read each dialogue option carefully in order to work out which sounds closest to the sort of thing the Shroud would say, like a dialogue puzzle in a dialogue-driven RPG, the game simply gives you the option to talk like the Shroud 3 times in a row and then you win. What? I can't think of a more inane, moronic, harebrained way to manage dialogue, and every single interaction throughout the entire game uses this system. This watered-down, washed-out, oversimplified, difficult-to-use, confusing mess that took actual work to implement. Like, what the
Again, like, I know there are bigger issues, but stuff like that, these little issues that were like just glossed over, and apparently, and the people in charge just didn't think of them correctly. It's like so sad. If those little things had been changed, Fallout 4 would be just that much better.
Oh no, it gets even worse.
In Fallout 4, both the male and female characters have full voice acting, and that's totally fine. But it makes me wonder, what game were Bethesda trying to make here? Is it one where every aspect of our character is fully customizable, so a player can play as anyone or anything they like and roleplay as that specific person? Or is it one where you're playing as a character that Bethesda has created for you with a full backstory that totally informs your behavior in all situations.
Guys, we'll do both.
In The Witcher 3, the person we control is fully voiced, but this works because we're not playing as a character we have designed from the ground up. Generally, the choices we pick in this game are based on how we think Geralt as a character would act. This is partly why the game doesn't let us change Geralt's appearance. Finally, we're perfect! Fallout 4 lets you change everything about your character. Everything. But still gives you a fully voiced person with a backstory set in stone, carved in onyx, lasered in fucking diamond. It means the player can't really get immersed because the game constantly drags us between these two conflicting ideas. It's further compounded by how opinionated our characters are. For example, when I finally get offered the opportunity to fight crime as the Shroud, the scourge of the underworld, shadow of the night, evil's bane, I of course choose to become the Shroud. Yes.
Looks like I get to be the Shroud. Yay.
Look, I know Freddy Fallout and Nikki Nuka-Cola
Don't do Oxhorn dirty like that.
over here love base building so they can put their Deathclaw hand collection on show like some kind of 90s serial killer.
Do you see? Do you see?
But you don't get it. Every time you put something in a game, you take attention away from something else. And not only does the base building make me want to cough up blood every time I use it, but it comes with a full settlement unlocking system and a sim base management, which is about as impressive as this game's draw distance.
Take a look over there. That's Fort.
Not only that, but the base building gets in the way of the game's story. For example, there's a section where Preston asks me to clear some rubble from a hallway in a castle. And this seems pretty simple. There's even a rocket launcher in this room. Stand back.
It's not working!
No, it doesn't work. What I'm supposed to do is... Stop. There's even a bit where we need to build a fully functioning teleporter in order to reach the Institute. Building it is so complicated, in fact, that we have to commit to joining one of the game's major factions so that they can use their advanced technological skills to construct it. And yet what ends up happening is... done. Even as I'm showing you this, I feel like I've made it up. But this is it. This is part of the main storyline. Why is it so bad? Why can't the game just fade out and then the faction helping you build it builds it? Keep in mind, too, that this teleporter is largely made from steel and bits of cloth. So I've somehow constructed this all on my own with nothing but a bunch of desk fans and teddy bears. As a result...
Oh, God, yeah. Again, as I said earlier about the whole thing, I wish there was, like... If they keep, like, the settlement and stuff building in future games, I wish there was a way, if, like, that you could automate it. And, like, oh, you have a settlement here, and if there's people there, like, you can look at their stats, and the better their stats are, they'll make a better manager, and the more, like, effective the base will become. Like, that doesn't stop you from, like, modifying and stuff like that. But it's basically, like, oh, you're part of the Minutemen now. You are I now officially designate you as the manager of the settlement. I shall start sending caravans over, and with more resources, you start sending your resources into the network, and now make things better for me. So, you know, just something like that. Like, I don't expect it to be absolutely perfect, but just something passable enough that, you know, the stuff that was like this, where that was like locked behind settlements, just wouldn't be completely blocked to people who just had no interest in doing it.
Result of Bethesda putting all this work into stuff that I don't think improves the game in any way. Fallout 4 just ends up feeling so unfinished.
I mean, the bottom third of the whole map literally has no quests to collect in it. And the quests we do get are so vague. Like this one I got right after leaving the vault. At the start of the game said nothing but kill Pyro. Okay, if you say so.
Oh god, yeah, the Creation Club quests. That's one of those things that I like what the Creation Club, like, I like what they were going for, but I really dislike how, like, all of them are just, oh, you buy it, or just, I really disliked how, like, basically all of them are, oh, you buy the add-on, and then, oh, hey, you just get a new quest. Like, there's no, like, you don't get a messenger, or you don't get, like, oh, I have a letter for you, and they send you the letter to, you know, hey, oh, hey, like, kill this guy because he's messing stuff up with a flamethrower. Like, it's just so cookie cutter.
Hey guys, Fallout Pyrocynical here. I just wanted to say...
The demon is defeated. A big part of this game is upgrading your weapons and armor, but every time you upgrade something, like the laser pistol for example, its name completely changes. There are about 42 upgrades, and thus about 42 different names you can have for a single laser pistol. Excited laser pistol, boosted laser pistol, agitated laser pistol, fiery laser pistol, long laser pistol, automatic, improved, charging, comfort, short-sighted, scope, tactical, recon, scattered, focus. I'm gonna equip my improved scattered laser pistol. But you can organize your weapons by type, right? Right? No, the only way to organize your weapons in your inventory really is alphabetically. Why can't we organize weapons by weapon type?
God, that's one of those things where, like, granted, actually, back in Fallout 4, I always named my weapons. Thinking about it, in my Fallout London playthrough, I should probably get back into that habit. Because I just found out in my previous recording session yesterday that, like, I had two 9mm pistols and I just didn't know.
Better yet, why do the menus not just have sub-menus, you sub-morons? I mean, you could be carrying 6 near-identical laser pistols, but somehow they'll be spread out from top to bottom anywhere in your weapons menu. Just update the game so we can organize weapons into melee, energy, and ballistic. Armor is the absolute worst, though.
God,
See,
yeah.
we as humans have 6 body parts, right? Quick, write that down! Write that down! So we can wear 6 different pieces of over-armor, 1 on each body part. But because the Pip-Boy screen is so small, you'll never be able to see everything you're wearing. Then, say you're doing something like the Silver Shroud mission, so want to dress as the Shroud for a few minutes. You equip the armor and...
Did I just unequip everything?
Again, that's what I was saying earlier, and I wish there was a way you could bundle, like, the individual pieces into a single set of clothing, so that way you could just go, oh hey, battle armor, silver shroud, click, click, and that way you don't have to click 6 things afterwards, you know, to get it back up. Ugh. So annoying.
That's right, most outfits in this game will unequip all current armor, baby. And God knows what you were just wearing. Half of it was off-screen, and the rest of it had names like Biocom, Mesh, Polymer, Combat Armor, Chest Piece. Sorry, I can't quite hear you. And we haven't even begun on misc items. You know when you pick up a note in Skyrim and you can read it, and then you put it away in what can be classed as the most basic rule of game design? Well, Fallout 4 is made by the same people as Skyrim, so I'm sure it's the same. Oh, wait! Yes, when you pick up notes in Fallout 4, you can't read them right away. This means you have to pick up the note, look at it, close the note, open the Pip-Boy, scroll to misc items, scroll all the way through to find the note you just picked up, open it again, and then you can finally read the note. However, misc items refers to almost every single item known to man. You have to scroll past everything. Bobby pins, bobbleheads, books, cards, comics, keys, holotapes, quest items, magazines, models, letters, logs, passwords, tokens, schematics. So you can finally reach the note you just picked up, reopen it, and finally oh, good. Again.
That was one of those things. Grant, I haven't played it in a while, but that was definitely one of those improvements that they made in Fallout 76 that I absolutely loved, where your inventory had, the misc was broken up into like just regular junk and notes. Oh god, that helped so much.
Even Skyrim had a separate menu for keys, yet every key you pick up in Fallout 4 is randomly littered around this misc item menu. What the hell happened here? Why haven't Bethesda fixed this in one of its 7,000 updates of Fallout 4? Please, we don't want any next-gen items that are simultaneously hideous and break Fallout London. I just want a fucking keyring.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Wait, speaking of which, upisnotjump. If you're watching this, please tell me, are you going to do a video on Fallout London? Because I would absolutely love to see you, go on about it, especially given, it's, I mean, you are English, so I mean, hopefully you know some of the stuff that's going on there. I mean, like, I'm doing okay in that game, but I'm going to be honest, most of the stuff that I know about, British culture, stuff like that, is from, watching Monty Python at a really young age.
I've avoided it long enough. Let's talk about the game's story. It's real bad.
The main story is where the bulk of the quests in this game went, and at its best, it's pretty good, and at its worst, it's the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. What is happening? The first chunk of the story involves us hiring
I've never
the
had that kind of glitch before.
Detective to find Kellogg. The first thing you do is find his house, and in here we find a secret room that couldn't possibly exist if you look at it from the outside. What is he now, the fucking doctor? Valentine eventually suggests that we...
I mean, he had enough, like, Institute tech put into him. You never know.
Track Kellogg using his sniffer dog, dog meat. Dog meat? You're telling me that dog meat is introduced here as part of the main story? Why the hell did we meet him at the start of the game then? Why not just pace his introduction properly by first meeting him here? Dog meat then tracks Kellogg across the Commonwealth.
I smoke my stogie anywhere I want.
And in this 15-minute long little stroll, we fight almost every type of enemy in the Fallout canon. Dogs, ghouls, robots, mole rats, turrets, and bears, oh my! It's like we're at Disneyland and we've gotten on the Fallout-themed ride. I mean, this entire mission takes place literally on rails. I can't even comprehend the poetic irony. And we aren't done there. Since then appear the fucking Brotherhood turn up and, well, no, that was everything. It's like Mission 3, and here's all the things we've encountered so far. Could I interest you in all of Fallout all of the time? The actual meeting with Kellogg is also similarly on rails. You can't reason with him, you can't let him go, all you can do is blow him up. Shortly after all this then, the main factions in this game, the Brotherhood of Steel, the Railroad, the Institute, and the Minutemen come into play, and they're all fighting to control the future of the Commonwealth. Replaying this game, I actually found I quite liked the Brotherhood. The Railroad, however, are a bit weird. They claim to be this clever network of expert spies who are trying to infiltrate the Institute, but they are all idiots. After we track them down, for example, their leader asks us,
"But who told you how to contact us?"
What? Excuse me, lady, you have personally left dozens of notes all about you all over the Commonwealth. There's a robot outside loudly directing everyone to your secret base, and the password to your covert railroad headquarters is literally the word railroad.
You know, out of all of that, and I remember, you know, following the Freedom Trail, all of the holotapes and stuff like that, I completely forgot about the Protectron, just belting it out.
This is like MI5's password being MI5 or James Bond. It's like whoever wrote this section of the game wanted to watch Bridge of Spies for research, but accidentally watched Bridge It Jones.
Oh yeah, I earned this.
The biggest issue for me, though, is from here, the game becomes entirely about synths and whether or not they are human beings. This has been done before. Worst of all, as we all know, this was done in the previous game. Since and the Institute got a lovely 60-minute side quest that adequately explored all the ideas and themes of artificial machine life with a nice little bow on top. Now, Fallout 4 is entirely about it. This is like if they made Pulp Fiction 2, but it's only about that coffee Quentin Tarantino made. The Institute then, for some reason, are producing synths and swapping them out with humans on the surface in order to spy on people. Most of these synths, for some reason, are also identical to humans in every way with a full range of dreams and emotions, yet they are treated exactly like slaves.
Yeah, at that point, it's very much like the Institute is very smart, but very arrogant.
The game then clearly establishes the Institute as being pretty evil, and as such, the other factions we meet, and I think most players at home, will want to try and stop them. This leads us then to eventually teleporting to their underground base and meeting their leader, Father. Now, as everyone and their dogs know, Father is actually our son, Sean, because after Kellogg took Sean, he refrosted us for 60 more years.
Kellogg's refrosties, anyone?
In my playthrough, though, of course, the tone was undercut a little bit by Father constantly teleporting about.
I am your son.
I am your father.
Father assures us that the Institute is actually a great place, so understandably we want to ask lots of questions so we can learn about the Institute and its motivations. Unfortunately, well, I played through the entire Institute storyline and you never once get any decent explanation of why the Institute is being so evil. Father even says,
"It really is humanity's best hope for the future."
But when we inquire why you, to Father making the claim that the Institute is the future of humanity, our character asks him,
"Director? Why you?"
Wait, what?
That's not what I said!
Not why are you building synths, not why give them emotions, not why kidnap people, not even who's flying the damn helicopter. No, we asked the last possible thing you'd think why you could possibly denote in this situation.
God, yeah. I remember years ago, I forget who made it, but there was a video I watched, like, specifically going over, like, how badly written, like, the Institute was, and the fact that, like, oh, once you gain control of it, after, you know, Father dies, you really can't do anything, even though, you know, you're the boss. And it would have been fun that, you know, you find out what they're doing, why they're doing it, and like if there had been some way that you could have started steering the Institute back onto like a better course or something like that, like that would have been great. And yet there's literally nothing. Like that is one of those things, like in Fallout 4 you can potentially become the head of 2 of the factions, whether it's, you know, the Railroad or the Institute, 2 of the 4 factions, and yet in both of them, like, you're basically doing all of the heavy lifting, and in one of them, you can't change the faction at all. You can't really change, you know, the Minutemen at all either. But I mean, they're the good guys. They're very much trying to help people. But like, either way, like, whenever something happens in one of these factions, it's always, oh, you're the one that's going to have to go out and do something. Oh, you're the one that's going to have to go out to this location and single-handedly kill everybody there. It just, it makes no sense. At least with like the Railroad and the Brotherhood, while you can become a pretty high-ranking member, you can, at no point are you ever, you know, the boss. So at that point, it makes sense that they're still delegating stuff to you to do.
See, here's where the conversation system doesn't just be quite confusing, it completely breaks down. The entire game has been leading to and hinges on these chats we have with Father. Yet every conversation we have with him is plagued with us having absolutely no idea what we're actually going to say. No matter what we pick, we never discuss anything relevant about synths or the Institute's plans. Nothing you say ever has any impact on Father's point of view or the ending of the game, and 90% of the time you only ever get to pick one of the 4 vague options presented to you in dialogue, and then the conversation permanently moves on. All of this combined means the conversations you have with Father over the course of this game have to be the worst, least satisfying conversations in video game history.
Damn you, son!
The second big chat we have with him is on this roof.
Why didn't I see that coming?
And here, Father reveals to us that he's never been outside the Institute in his entire life. But in his quick 2-minute little midnight stroll on a roof, he decides the Commonwealth is dead and has no future, completely contradicting the only single tangible point he's made in this entire game. If you do suffer an embolism and decide to join the Institute, Father eventually reveals that we are going to be made the Institute's new leader. And again, this should be great, but it never gives us any option whatsoever to free synths or tell them to stop kidnapping people, so it's meaningless. Eventually then, as any sane person would, you give up on the Institute and use the Minutemen or Railroad to try and save the synths. If you join the Railroad, they eventually reveal that their final plan to save all of the synths and put an end to slavery is to set off a nuclear bomb within the Institute. Oh, the peaceful approach, is it? Yeah, remember when Abraham Lincoln emancipated the slaves by detonating the Northern Hemisphere? What a guy. Seriously, guys, is there not any other way to deal with the Institute, which I am now the fucking leader of, I remind you, than detonating a nuke within it? What, are we trying to recreate the divide here? But this is how the game is programmed to end. No matter which faction you side with, you storm the Institute and full-on megaton the place, seemingly killing everyone you were attempting to save and all the numerous innocent people living here. I mean, I met several scientists here who seem to want the synths to have more rights. Hell, the explosion itself above ground takes out half of the game map.
We did it. We saved everyone.
Before you do blow up the Institute, though, you can choose to have one final complex chat with Father.
Complex, yeah.
At this point, we've overrun the entire Institute, but we don't even get close to an option to negotiate the Institute's freedom if they stop being so evil. All we get is...
Are you in any pain?
There's nothing.
Amazing cancer angle.
That's nothing, though. In my playthrough, he didn't even spawn in his bed.
It's not enough that I lay here dying.
Bye, son. So we blow up the Institute for absolutely no reason and are forced to watch the most tonally dissonant closing cinematic possible.
I can feel it wash over me. The heat, the force, the radiation. I close my eyes. I see my life before.
This emotion hasn't been earned. We're all sitting at home totally baffled about why the hell we had to blow up the most technologically advanced place in the wasteland after we fully took it over.
Again, yeah, that's definitely one of those things. I mean, granted, at the very least with, you know, you do have the option of letting the scientists and stuff evacuate. But at the same time, like, these are people who have spent literally their entire lives underground and do not know how to survive the hardships of the wasteland at all. I don't think many of them would survive unless they very quickly found a settlement. It's like, hey, I'm a scientist that can make ultra-advanced tech. Help me!
Not to mention, within just the opening and closing of this game, our character says,
War never changes.
a total of 5 times. Did Bethesda really have this little faith in their writing? Yes.
So there we go. The biggest issue this game has then, I'd say, was obviously the Institute, particularly Father's character.
He's just so full of contradictions, it's impossible to see his point of view at all. At one point he reveals to you that he dearly hopes you could love a synth child that he's made. This is insane! Father's only recognizable character trait and the entire plot of this game revolves around how adamant he is that synths are nothing but unfeeling machines. He would never ask this.
I also think this game attempted to do so many different things. It wasn't able to do any of them perfectly. In my playthrough alone, I found so much unfinished stuff. Look, here I'll read off a quick-fire list.
Wait, my sensors can't take any more bad game design.
Oh, really?
Many of the animations were constantly messing up. The camera was always doing weird things in conversations. VATS often made me feel fucking sick. Stealth armor would make the Pip-Boy menu disappear. Characters' skin would change color. Mutants were so low res it was like they hadn't rendered properly. Underwater exploration is broken. Elevators never work. The frame rate is all over the place. Textures were disappearing. Characters were disappearing. The draw distance, the shadow distance, the Pip-Boy light, lighting effects, general lighting.
No.
Granted, I mean, I very rarely ever, like, I'm actually pretty lucky in that sense. I very rarely ever have any problems with, like, bugs or something like that, especially animation ones. And I think that whole skin one only really came into effect, like, if you have mods installed or something. I've never had that problem either.
No!
I can feel it wash over me. The heat, the force, the radiation. It's the end of the world all over again. I close my eyes. I see my life.
No, shut up. Ugh, how am I supposed to get out of here now? Wait, a desk fan? And a teddy bear? Who cares if it makes sense? Fuck it. Hey everyone, thank you all so much for watching this video. As always, this video was a little bit spinny, with me needing to hire music producers, the set and set designers, cinematographers, voice actors, special effects artists, editors. So if you enjoyed this video and want me to continue making high production stuff like this, please consider joining my Patreon for as little as $2 linked below. I'll be posting loads of extra cut content and a director's commentary over the next few weeks, so do check it out. As well as that we also of course have the Absolute Nightmare box set, which contains loads of extra exclusive videos and things. So I've also linked that below too. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I love the Fallout series. It's one of my favorites. It's up there with like BioShock and stuff like that. It's one of my like early loves when it comes to like loving a franchise. And granted, I mean, like I just thinking back to it, I remember how excited I was when they first announced Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. I'm happy that, you know, for the most part, the show is, you know, pretty good as well. But God, it just all the stuff that's been going wrong with like all the stuff that kind of went wrong with Starfield, and how long it's going to be before we get another Fallout. I mean, I hope that when we get the next one, it is good. Like, as I said, if we could get, like, the combat and stuff like that, like, with Fallout 4 was good. If we could get that with, like, the RPG elements from, like, New Vegas, oh, God, you'd have a perfect game right there. Oh. But, yeah, that's definitely going to be it for now. So, yeah, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.